they may need something, be it a buyer even, someone that doesn't want to, if I approach them as on my buyer's list and they're not in the industry at all, or possibly as a private money person. And if they say no, well, I'll just maybe down the line, I might ask them again, because you never know that things might change.
Welcome to the Get Traction podcast. If you are ready to learn exactly what it takes to become a real estate entrepreneur, this is the show for you. With your host, founder of Traction Real Estate Mentors and president of the Traction Real Estate Investors Association, Tom Zeeb.
Welcome back to the Get Traction podcast. This is Tom Zeeb, your host. Happy to be back. And with me always is my producer, Harry Duran. Hey, Harry.
Hey, Tom. How are you?
Awesome, thanks. And we've got a very special guest on the line. I'm super excited. I am stoked to be I love doing student interviews where we talk about success stories of my students out there in the field, making this happen, making good money in real estate investing, changing their communities and improving the housing stock. And today's guest is Mark Duncan, who's from the Portland area in Oregon. Let's say northern Oregon on the coast. Mark, are you with us?
Yes, I am. How are you doing?
Awesome, thanks. What part of Oregon are you in?
Well, I presently live in a place called Rockaway Beach, Oregon, which is about an hour and a half straight west of Portland. So I drive in and mainly do my work in Portland. So for those of you that don't know, if you ever see the movie Goonies, the beach scene there, that's basically where I live.
Fantastic. So you have pirate ships that break free of caves and come out.
Yes. Yeah. There's a few.
It always happens. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here, Mark. Tell us a little bit about when did we meet? When did you first attend the boot camp? And let's give us a little background on yourself.
Okay, sure. Well, I'm a member of the Northwest RIA out here in the Portland area, and I went to a Thursday night meeting you had. I think it was last September timeframe. August, September timeframe last year, and went to your your Thursday and your Saturday event, and then signed up to go to your boot camp, and signed up for your program, and went to the boot camp in Washington D.C. there. So it's been coming up on about 8 months that I've been working with you.
What kind of results have you had in that time?
Actually been real busy. First off, the great thing about your course is I'm able to bring my team members there. So have you train them instead of me try to train them. And they work they work totally different parts of the state. So they're working areas that I would never get to. So one's down in the Southern Oregon area, and one's in the Willamette Valley, which is Eugene, Salem, for those of you that are might know the area. And so they work the areas, and I work the Portland metro area. So that's worked out well. Some of the deals I've done, I've closed a couple through drive-by. That was two out-of-state owners. They happen to know each other. So I sent letters to both, and then they kind of put things together, and those did well. Took a little while to close on both those, but they were, one was about a $10,000, just a shade under $10,000, and the other was $5,000 wholesale fee on those.
So tell us a little bit more about those first before we move on.
Sure.
One by one.
Yeah.
You said you found them from Driving for Deals?
Yep, Driving for Deals, both in the same area. They're both a couple of blocks away from each other, and they were both rental houses that were that needed some attention, to say the least. So they weren't looking too good.
Is that what stood out about them as you drive by?
Yeah, as I drove by, took a picture of them, sent them a postcard, both of them, and stating that I was interested in their property, could close quickly, that kind of thing. Stuff that I learned from took your template of your postcard and made my own, and both responded back within, I think it was maybe 2 mailings, because I mailed them out about 30 days apart, and both responded on the second one, and then went and physically met with one of the owners at one of the properties, who didn't live too far away, but they wanted to come out and meet me and everything. So I met with them and discussed that, kind of went back and forth on a price, and was able to close that. And then the other one I did strictly over the phone as a referral from the first gentleman I was talking to. He referred me And so I talked to the other one and got that all done over the phone. That was a little quicker and easier. It wasn't as much as the first one, but that's fine. I'll take it.
Well, $15,000 total for driving around
No,
doesn't sound like
not
a
bad at
bad
all.
drive.
Not bad at all. Yeah, pays for the gas for quite a while.
You're probably covered for a couple of years.
Yes, exactly. But it was good. It was good learning. One of the things with the gentleman in person there, in going back and forth on the price and stuff, I used the flinch method on the way you taught the negotiating, and that was pretty fun. So
How to flinch. Now, you said you were purely on the phone. So if for people that don't know, anytime flinching is basically anytime anyone says any number whatsoever,
yep.
you flinch and act like you were assaulted by the number. So tell
Yes.
us how that went.
Yeah, it was approximately about 245,000. He came in, he said, I wanted 260. And I said, oh, it's not gonna be able to work. And kind of went back and forth and got him down to about 245 with an ARV of about 400. So that worked out pretty well. It wasn't a huge deal, but it was a good deal nonetheless. But we went back and forth, and it worked.
Hey, Mark, I was wondering if you could think back to before you found Tom's program. Like, what was it? Where were you at the time that you were actually looking for something like that, like what Tom was offering?
Yeah, I'd been in and out of real estate for 30 years. Worked in commercial, industrial real estate. I'm an actual agent as well, real estate agent as well. And about 2 years ago, my regular job went away, so I was trying to figure out what to do, and then I decided to get back into real estate full time, 100%, and then kind of discovered the real estate investing world. Did a few deals over the years. Prior to that, kind of just falling into some flips and things, and so kind of taking it up as a full time business, if you will. It took a little while to get it going, was spinning the wheels a little bit. And then the nice thing was seeing Tom's program and noticing that on the schedule. I figured that's got to be good. You got to go to that because it sounds like and it is nuts and bolts of wholesaling, which is good because you get a lot of little classes and training here and there, but it's, kind of cursory. It's kind of, I always use the term 30,000 feet. It's kind of taught at 30,000 feet where Tom is at about 1,000 feet. So you're there and you're seeing everything. So it works out real well. And then again, like I mentioned, it was good. It's good to bring some people in my team. I've got a couple other people lined up that we're going to try to make it out to Washington, D.C., either this next one or the one after, and get some more people trained up.
It sounds like you had tried a couple of other programs. What was it when you saw how Tom had organized his that attracted you?
Yeah, well, a couple other programs. I did some weekend boot camps with some others, and they were good. They gave a pretty good overview, but there was mainly focusing on the flipping part and how to kind of put those together, and not enough, I thought, on the marketing and actually getting the deals. So they had a lot of it on finding money and things like that. But the hardest part, I don't know, for me, is just finding the deals. And the other stuff will all fall into line if you have a deal, because if you have a deal, you can go find the money pretty quick because people will fall over themselves to get you the money in most cases. But finding them, and that's where this thing came up, and I shared it with others. I've got other people in my team that haven't been to the training yet in person, but I've gone over the different things, and they will they will listen to the podcast as well and get the information.
You have an interesting story with some of your bird dogs. So some of your bird dogs are, what would you tell people your bird dogs do?
Yeah.
A bird dog is a scout, someone out there who you recruit to another set of eyes and ears to go find deals, or like you were driving for deals and found those two properties. A bird dog would find those two properties and tell you about them. So you're able to expand out. So what group of people is it that you're using to turn in the bird dogs for you?
Well, I've been coaching high school football and track since the mid 80s on and off. And so what I've done is I use former athletes that I've coached that are kind of just getting out of college, and they're always looking for some extra money. When they feel like getting up off the couch and not playing video games, they want to get out and make some extra money. So that's what I've done. And they've actually brought me a few things. We haven't closed on them yet, but they've brought me some traffic anyway to work on. But yeah, so I have, gosh, I would say 7 or 8 people that I've coached in the past that are my bird dogs for me. And then one bird dog I have is a lady that runs the doggy daycare that we take our dog to, and she's a junkie on HGTV, so she wants to learn all about that kind of stuff. So it works out pretty well. Pretty well. You just ask a lot of people, and they'll always want to make some extra money.
Do you find that there's a trait with some of the bird dogs that do it better than others?
Yes, kind of more of an entrepreneurial mindset. One thing that, like in coaching high school track, there's for those of you who haven't done it, I mean, there's a lot of kind of standing around and visiting with, and you talk and have conversations with the athletes. And I always first thing I'd like to do is find out what the family, what the parents do for a living, what their dad does. And in a lot of cases, at the school that I coach, it's there's a lot of entrepreneurial type parents there. So I felt that kind of helps, the child, the athlete understands kind of that mindset and that way of doing business. So it works out pretty well. I have one girl that I coached whose family runs a small business. She actually does a lot of the paperwork for that business and the numbers, so she understands that, and she's helping me out with some of my social marketing, social media stuff, and also doing some driving for dollars as well. So it works out pretty well. But just find the kids that kind of more of an entrepreneurial spirit and come from families that are, have self-employed people in them. That works best.
Yeah, it's interesting how it works out. Well, when people have a certain kind of mindset, that it adds to that. So, like anything, you want to reach out to a number of different types of bird dogs, and let's see which ones get active. Because I talk about a lot, kind of deal one-itis. You never want to be focused on one particular deal. Just like don't be focused on one particular source. Always have a number of balls in the air that you're juggling. That way, whichever one starts to pop and hit, you can follow through on that. But you don't get too obsessed with any one thing at the expense of doing nothing else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. And let's talk a little bit about your, you've been working to kind of dominate your state in the different regions and the different areas. Let's talk about that.
Sure. Well, as I mentioned earlier on, I live at the northern Oregon coast, so I'm about an hour and a half outside of the Portland metro area. And the Portland metro area is fairly large, about 3 million people, if put it all together there. And the one thing is, I'm trying to set things up throughout the state with bird dogs and the other people in other parts of the area that I don't have to drive into Portland as much as I have been. This time of year, coaching track, I'm in the middle of about 18 out of 19 days straight of driving into Portland an hour and a half each way. And gets a little old after a while, but it's kind of the, we chose to live at the beach. So that's what happens there. But so I'm trying to set it up to where I have people spread out throughout the state. So it allows me to do more things from home. One thing Portland is, I don't know, most, some of the people don't really know Oregon. You have Portland metro area, which is obviously the largest. And then you have just a handful of other kind of smaller little 50 to 100,000 population, towns or little groups of towns. So it's everything's real spread out. So we have Southern Oregon, which is, a 5-hour drive from Portland, which is Medford and, Roseburg down that area. And I have my one partner, Samantha, she works those areas. And then the Eugene, Salem, Albany area, which is the middle part, and that's Jody works there. I'm currently looking for someone to work the Bend area, which there's about 150,000 or so people in that area. So, and that's where all the Californians with all the California money are coming up to move to. So is, in the Bend area, which is more central Oregon. And then other than that, there's really not much left. A lot of empty space out here.
Gotcha.
Which is a good thing.
Tell us about some of the other deals you're doing.
Yeah.
Some of the deal stories.
Yeah. So what I've done, and one thing that I learned through your training was, about the buyer's list. And if I can't emphasize enough, is have a diverse buyer's list, not just regular flippers and full of flippers and that kind of thing. Is I have a handful of people that are buy and hold types. So the nice thing is, with one of them I actually coached years ago, who has a couple hundred rental houses, or I should say a couple hundred doors. So he's got, like 70 or 80 single family homes, and the rest kind of spread amongst fourplexes and duplexes and things. But he is in a buying mode, and he's buying, a certain area and a certain type of property. He's buying anything that's zoned commercial in the Portland area in certain areas. So what I've done is I've looked up a lot of deals that way. Being on the multiple listings, I've been able to, it's easy for me to get expired listings. So I've done a couple expired listing deals with him. And one was a duplex and one's a single family home. And that was good. That brought in $5,000 and $15,000 on those, one each. And then actually another thing I've done, you've taught us if we get a property under contract to put together a packet of information to send out to all the other people on your buyers list. Well, I get those as well. I get probably 4 or 5 a week throughout the state from 2 or 3 different wholesalers. Some of them are big companies out of or big groups of people out of California that work with Oregon. And I've actually done 3 I've wholesale to wholesale 3 times. Now those aren't as big of money, but it's something. I've been able to get $5,000 a piece on those. And what's nice is they will send out they will send out the sheet about a property, and they will have the purchase price from them, what their suggested rehab, and then the ARV at the end, what it's worth at the end. And with him, if it's in his area, I go look at it with him, and he looks at it and he says, you know what, if you were to flip it, you need to get a new roof. But if you look at the roof is good enough for 10 years. So he doesn't have to worry about it, or 5 years, things like that. So he's able to get into it with, with less rehab cost, and it makes sense to him. So we're able to kind of outbid the other wholesalers in the process. So we've been able to get a few of those as well. So that's worked out well. So wholesaling a wholesale. Yeah.
Wholesaling a wholesale. Yeah. So, which is effectively taking the buyers list you've developed and some of the relationships with particular buyers of yours, and leveraging that by feeding them, you know what he wants. And so you can find other deals, even if it's other wholesalers that have them, and still make money off of someone else's deal.
Right. And I've done on both those, I've done a simultaneous close, and that's worked out well, because that way he understands. I've told him, I said, hey, dude, I got to make some money on this. And he's good with that. He's no problem. But I don't want to upset the other wholesalers on that. So I just,
gotcha.
Yeah, I just do a simultaneous close, and that's worked out great. And then we're also in the process, same guy, Chris is his name, another expired listing, single family home we're working on. And then a real nice, well, it's not a real nice building, but it's going to be a pretty good number of a expired listing on a duplex, and it's zoned commercial right off, a couple houses off of Main Street. So that's right up his alley, because in Portland area, rents are tight. They're up there, and they just passed statewide rent control and all that. So there's a lot of there's a lot of things up in the air with Oregon when it comes to that. But he's positioned well enough that he, anything will work for him.
So even in a competitive market, I mean, Portland's been on fire now for you. I mean, just fantastic market, and prices moving up. There's a number of different markets like that across the country. And I always hear people say, oh, what am I going to do here? It's too crazy here. No one's going to go low here. There's no money to be made here. Well, it sounds like, I mean, so far, I think you've been talking about over $50,000 in profits so
Yes.
far. So what say you about all that, Mark?
Well, if the people are going to just go off of Zillow and, look for properties that way that look distressed, you're not going to get very far, because everybody and their brother is looking at it, and it drives the price up. Same thing with, off of regular multiple listings. That's why the expired listings work well. And just driving for dollars. I've done I'm in the process of mailing for probate. I haven't got anything there yet, but I expect that to start happening pretty soon. And then, of course, out-of-state owners, like you taught us, that's the best one. Actually, I'm looking at a lot here in the town where I live at the beach that's closer to the ocean, that we're thinking about tying up so we can build a house there in the next year or so. Something with a little better view, a little closer to the beach and stuff. So
Gotcha. So nothing wrong with using the same techniques to improve your own situation and upgrade your own house.
Right. And then also too, down here at the beach, the area I live is, like 1,000 people. It's not much. And then the main town about 20 minutes south of us is 6,000. So not a lot, but there's some industry down here. There's a big cheese factory and different things, and a lot of dairy farms and stuff. But they are lacking in rental houses. Everything down here seems to be a Airbnb type vacation rental. So for
Gotcha.
people find, so that's what my next mission is to tie up some different things and try to get some rentals down here. The numbers are a little high. It's hard to make the rentals kind of pencil out, but if you can get a duplex, they work easily down here. Single family homes, not so much, but I'm trying to tie that up so I can either build something or do something even with a manufactured home down here. I mean, you can rent those or do at least own things all day long down here.
So you're taking the same, I mean, you've been talking about wholesale deals that you've done, but as you're looking ahead, you're thinking cash flow and rentals.
Yes.
How does what I've taught you change? Does it change, or is it effectively just what you're focusing on?
No, it hasn't changed. It's kind of what I'm focusing on. I want to get some more money in the bank as I do this. The nice thing about wholesaling and getting good at it and getting houses under contract from all different types of marketing, driving or letters and that kind of thing, is I'm able to find properties that I could look at more as a rental and make it work out here, because the 1% rule doesn't really work. I mean, to get a $2,000 a month rent out here, you're spending $350 on a house. So if I'm able to find something for a duplex and things, then you can make it work. But it's allowing me to get in there and root around and find stuff that I normally wouldn't have in the past.
Gotcha. So it is just a matter of the marketing's marketing, negotiations is negotiation, contracts are contracts. It's just changing what you personally want the outcome to be.
Right. Now, for example, major need for him because he's getting it from all his other properties that he bought years ago. But what he's doing is he's getting set up to where once Portland eases up on the cost of permitting and things like that, because it's out of control for that, he has properties that he can turn into eightplexes or larger. And he's just kind of wanting rentals that, if he makes a couple $100 a month, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. He just doesn't want to lose too much. And so he's kind of preparing for the future and doing it that way. Whereas myself, I'm obviously not to that yet. I'd like to be someday, but I'd like to get some rentals that actually have some cash each month. So
amazing. But meanwhile, with this other fellow, you're able, if you find properties that are kind of average, you can wholesale them to him, and he'll buy them from you.
Yep. Yeah, and he's good. He's cash right there, and then he goes and works on them, makes them nice, and then refinances them through his commercial bank and things like that. So.
Gotcha. Since he's taken the longer term view, he could take a little less now, but he's got his financial act together.
Right.
Again, planning for his future. Fantastic.
Right. And he'll have several properties under one large loan kind of thing. It works out well, and he's able to, get the stuff and make it work where an average small person with a handful of rentals probably couldn't make it work. He's able to make it work. And therefore, for me, it allows me to find him properties that normally you'd have to say, oh, can't do it, on to the next one. Well, just about anything I look at is a possibility for him or someone else in my group.
Very good. How'd you meet buyers like this? Because I mean, that's a solid buyer to have. Someone who's going to look at it, look at borderline stuff. How did you develop those kinds of buyers?
Well, that particular one, back in my first year coaching, I was only 21 years old coaching, and he was a sophomore. So I got to know him then, and then kind of kept in contact with a lot of those guys at that age, way back when. So those are the guys I've used over the years. Also, too, I have a couple people on my buyers list that are parents of kids that I coach now. So they come and watch their kids compete, and I will always go up and introduce myself to the parents, and obviously ask them what they do, kind of fishing around a little bit, and a couple of the headquarters of Nike is nearby. So both the people that are on my buyers list that want to get involved and buy something are both Nike executives. So that works well. And then a lot of my other buyers are through the RIA. So what's nice is once a month they have a meeting where they just go around the room and everybody just says their name and phone number and what they're looking for, what they have. And I get that list and I put it on a spreadsheet, and I have probably 50 or 60 people on that list that I market to each time I've gotten something under contract. Just so happens I've had a couple of my other people, I've already had some, I had them in mind when I pick up the property. So I pretty much know where it's going to go before I get it. So.
Yeah, as you should, and that's what I want folks to remember. Sometimes you know what your buyers want, and then you go out and find it, and then just match them with it because they're busy with their rentals or they're busy with their rehabs. But if you get busy finding what they want, that's a beautiful relationship.
Yes, I have an appointment. Matter of fact, this afternoon, in a few hours, that I'm meeting that one buyer with the rentals at a house that actually has an additional lot tied to it. So the cost of it is up there. It's basically, I can say it's about $450,000 for a house that will rent for about $3,200 a month. But there's an additional lot tied to it that's important for him because it's like, okay, I won't make a whole lot of money, but then I can actually put a tall, skinny little house on it and make some extra money there.
So it's recognizing those opportunities since you've gotten to know your buyer and you understand what they're after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I've known them for years enough to where it's a real candid, we have candid conversations about that kind of stuff, and it's easy. And I'll tell them, I go, nah, don't mess with it. As we get into something, we've looked at 2 or 3 others that I've said, I said, I said, I can find you something that's better than this.
And let me say this, Mark, just so the lesson for the people out there is not that they need to know top executives at a big company, or not that they necessarily need to become an athletic coach and interview the parents. It's think about what you're saying and how that can apply to their own individual lives. So everybody knows somebody, people, but have you actually talked to them in a way that would make sense to see if they are buyers, if they know buyers, if they're private? How could you help them? It's not like what I'm trying to say is people don't need to go out and become identical to what you are to have it work. What's magical about the way you're doing it is you're looking at your own situation saying, how can I integrate in my real estate business into my existing life? How can I find the people that I need to find? How can I develop a buyer's list from them? And how can I improve that using the resources that you already have? People that you've known for 20 years, people that you know now, and it's the main thing is you're not shy to get out there and talk about what you're doing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I don't have a problem doing that at all. I mean, I owned an insurance agency for almost 20 years. So, I mean, you're constantly out there marketing yourself all the time. And also one of my first jobs I ever had, and laugh about one of the first jobs I had when I was like 21, 22 outside of coaching was selling photocopiers and cold calling businesses, all day long in that. And that, if anything, that'll give you thick skin. So it doesn't, I mean, that kind of stuff doesn't bother me at all.
Well, now you went through your trial by fire, selling copiers and developing a thick skin. I'm convinced that toughening up the skin is a super important thing to do. At both times you've been to the boot camp, I talk about that need to really toughen up your own skin to handle the rejection that's bound to come. So what words of wisdom can you say around that to get people who may be a little sensitive to being heard no, or a little sensitive to being rejected? What could you do? What lessons have you learned through that process to toughen up your skin?
The way I always look at it, I always think every no is one step closer to the next yes. I mean, that sounds kind of cliche, and that's kind of something I learned years ago, from different sales managers I had when I was in my early 20s and stuff. A buddy of mine prefers he's in gas mode. He doesn't give a S word, right?
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of I mean, I've developed that more over the years, and I've developed, and I'm really living by it now. I don't care. Hey, I'll keep asking. I mean, that's I'm not going to worry about one person either getting upset about me calling them or whatever. I mean, because I gotta think about myself, and I don't want to be rude. I'm not going to be overly in their face, but if my personality is such that, okay, I'm amicable. I can get a good dialogue going with people and stuff, and finding common ground when discussing things with them. But when it comes to a no, it's like, okay, That's fine. And then I always kind of keep it in mind that maybe down the line, sometime they may need something, be it a buyer, even, someone that doesn't want to, if I approach them as on my buyer's list and they're not in the industry at all, but or possibly as a private money person. And if they say no, well, I'll just maybe down the line, I might ask them again, because you never know that things might change.
No is not no. No is just no for now.
Exactly. Well, yesterday, my wife and I went to breakfast in a small little diner down here, and we were seated at a table with a big table, like with 5 or 6 seats, just the two of us. And this older gentleman and his mom, they had no place to sit, so I let him join us, told him to join us. And turns out he's a guy that has a couple rental houses in the Tillamook area. And, he's a guy that works for the Forest Service. So if those of you know the area down here, a lot of woods and a lot of lumber and all that kind of stuff. And he's a retired Forest Service, retired Navy, which I apologize to him. I felt badly because I'm former Army. So, and his mom was celebrating her 90th birthday, and he was all over the idea of possibly funding, because he kind of understands the rental market a little bit. He's not really looking for any rental houses, but he has some cash that he would consider possibly, doing a loan or some gap funding on a flip kind of thing. So always trying to figure something out.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think you keep yourself out there and you're not shy about what you're doing, because you recognize what you're doing is good for people. It's good for the housing industry. It's good for the neighborhoods. It's good for the state. It's just good.
Yeah. And if you traveled a little bit in the Oregon area, you get outside the metro area and there are some areas that just need help. It's, they've been forgotten for years. The timber industry and stuff has kind of passed them by with different things, spotted owl and all those. And there's a lot of towns where it's just, you drive through them, you're going, God, they just need a help, just need some sort of help. And because people aren't willing to move like they used to for jobs, so they want to kind of stay in an area. Well, that's fine, but when there's nothing there, then we've got to figure something else out.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, I was wondering how your confidence with these types of deals has increased, because it said it's something you had dabbled in previously to finding Tom's program, and I'm wondering how that's changed now.
One of the nice things is, a lot of times before I got into the program with Tom, is I was real hesitant on a lot of stuff because I didn't feel confident enough in, the contract and making sure that I'm kind of covered in the whole deal. And if something goes sideways, I'm able to get out of it. And I've had to do that a few times since starting Tom's program. So what was nice, the training, and I made sure that the people that went with me, and I've done it with some other people, is the step-by-step that he goes through the contract line by line. Right there, reading that and knowing that has helped my confidence level big time. So I went into one deal, it was going to be a pretty good deal, but as it turned out, they were losing the house due to not paying their property taxes, and we were going to do a kind of a rent back, buy it from them, rent back for a couple of years as an older widow, and then at the end of that, then redo it and then sell it, and there was going to be a pretty good profit margin. But one thing led to another, and she had a son that lived out of state that ended up coming, kind of paying some of the back taxes to keep him in there. But I was able to be confident in that whole deal because of, knowing the contract was set up and such that it was able to, if it didn't work, I was able to get my money back on an earnest money and on to the next one. So it's worked out well.
So if you think back to where you were before you were introduced to Tom's program, what advice would you give to anyone who was in your shoes at that time?
My advice would be to make offers and make a lot of offers. I was a little more hesitant on some of them because the confidence wasn't there. And then kind of figuring out my exit strategy, I wasn't as good at that. I've since obviously learned that in getting my buyers list together and the diversity of my buyers list. So pretty much any property that I can make an offer on, I've got an exit strategy that's going to work and make me money and make the other person some money as well. But that's the thing, is just confidence in doing a lot of offers. And then the marketing process of it is, the out-of-state owners and things. And I was doing little of that. I didn't do many bulk mailings and things, but I would, contact, but the stuff I was doing was real slow going. I don't know if that's a proper term, but it was very slow, whereas I'm able, with some of Tom's help, able to, hit a lot more things, mass mailings to the out-of-state homeowners and things, out-of-area homeowners. And that's helped. And then not real. And another thing too, I was going to say that what I was doing before I kind of started going to the Tom's things is I look more at everything as me doing it as a flip, and it doesn't necessarily always work well that way, because in like these cases where I have my friend that buys it as a rental, obviously there's not as much margin in there, which is fine. It works for him, and then I'm able to make some money with it. But for me, doing it as a flip and then possibly having to use hard money and that kind of thing, it wasn't going to work. So I would walk away from a lot of deals that now work for me in one way or another. So that's the main thing, just confidence and knowing what the exit strategy is, and having the buyer's list in place that allows me to meet those goals.
Was it any one particular thing I said, or one particular thing I taught? I know you said you got a lot of confidence from knowing the contracts, but what came together to really get you moving faster and moving more consistently?
Having a plan, like you said, like when I went to the 2 boot camps, all 3 of us, the 2 people that I brought and myself, we just basically hit the ground running when we got back. That's, we got the lists. We got both the other people are actual real estate agents as well. So that's worked out there, because all of us are able to get access to things that the normal person, they can get to if they have a relationship with another agent, but I'm able to get to it a lot easier, and on my own time frame, and not having to depend on a real estate agent to get that information. And I think it was just it wasn't really any one thing. It was a combination of everything, knowing the contract, knowing the marketing and who I'm hitting. And then also the fun one was the flinching, in dealing with the negotiation. That's always good. And then kind of that, and watching HGTV, I guess. No, just kidding on that. Or $1 Million Listings, or one of those kind of things.
Gotcha. So it's kind of a combination of everything, and understanding the process, understanding the details, the ins, the outs, the lefts, the right. Everything kind of comes together and just clicked.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it's a process. All of it is process, and having systems set up, and that was the key. Is just learning to have a system set up. And I get in, and every time I get a chance to to work on all that stuff, I know exactly what I need to do. I get my mailers out and going from there. Whereas before it was kind of a shotgun approach, right? I go, okay, I do a little of this. Oh gosh, it's not really working. I didn't give some things enough time. And that's the thing you said it's not going to happen overnight. And I know that, and spending my whole adult life in sales. But I know it's going to take a few mailers to the same person to get any kind of response.
Yeah, you had mentioned on those, I think the first 2 deals you spoke about earlier, that both of those were a result of your second mailing.
Yeah, both of those are second mailing. And when I started talking to the first gentleman in person, I kind of told him what I'm, the background, and he understood, because he was getting other mailers and things. But I was able, I actually he lived in a different part of the area, so I went to where he was. We looked at the property together, but I originally went to where he was. And then we met another day at his property, and he liked that idea. And, it's something that you can't always do. But with that, and in the conversation, I mentioned that I sent other mailers to other people around, and then one thing led to another. And then he realized that I sent a mailer to a friend of his that had the other property. And that was pretty quick, because, the one said that he'd worked with me in person and all that, and kind of greased the skids for that. Grease the wheels a little bit.
Gotcha. And that was 10,000 on the first one, and then 5,000 from his friend's property?
Yeah, the other one was going to be a little bit more, but then the wholesaler that I was dealing with, or the flipper I was dealing with, we kind of had to change things a little bit up. And so it was a couple grand less than I initially anticipated, but that's fine.
That's fine. It happens. Yep. It's still $5,000 from, from this. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. That'll buy a lot of lattes out here in coffee land.
You're full of lattes and coffee land.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, so as you're going through that, you mentioned something, Mark. You said you weren't the only mailing he had received. He'd received other investors' marketing, and yet he chose you. Any ideas why? What set you apart from that? What made you stand out?
Because I sent the second one. He says he gets a lot of them one time, and it's the fact that he got the second one from me and he recognized it,
Hmm.
and that was what I think. That's what I think was the key to that one, because he recognized it. He said, "Oh, I remember seeing this a few weeks back," and he called on it. And I used I have a local number. I'm from the area. I grew up not too far from where that house is, in the Beaverton area, which is west of Portland and a suburb of Portland. And so it worked out well. And the conversation got going. I said, "Oh yeah, I know exactly. I lived over here," and just that's my strength. One of my strengths in sales over the years is I'm able to find common ground with people.
Small talk and common
Yeah,
ground.
small talk. I'm able to kind of figure out something that we have in common that we can talk about, be it a sports team, or or maybe a job I had, or maybe a school that they attended that I might have known somebody at their school. I mean, just you'd be surprised if you dig deep enough, you'll find something.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So you were able to build rapport with him, and which helped solidify the relationship. But he initially called you quite simply because you bothered to send the second round of mailing to the exact same people who had not responded the first time.
Oh yeah, so it was the second mailing to him, and then the other person, you know, was the same way. But then he had conversations with this gentleman, so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, repetition is the key. I mean, I call it multiplication or repetition, but when you multiply your marketing effort, it stands out. And a large part of the time, it stands out because everyone else sent one round of mailing, said, "Oh, that didn't work. Woe is me. All I did was waste money. Oh, it's all late night TV garbage." And then they run and hide.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, and they go to the mailbox and they get a bunch of returns and all that, and they get discouraged.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get that way. I call it kind of in the military term that we use is force multiplier, right? So you just have something out there that just duplicates yourself, which is a lot of mailings. Instead of just knocking on each of those doors, you could be able to cover a lot more ground, with the mailings and things like that.
So the repetition, the multiplication of your mailing efforts is the force multiplier in your business.
Exactly. Yep. And then I'm doing that with, two other people, and then I'm in the process of bringing a couple others on that will do the Portland area as well. But it's a big enough area that I can make something on them. I make a little bit on the people. I provide them the training and all that, and I've known them for prior to getting into this, so they're happy about it, and I make some money on areas that I would not have had time to even deal with, different parts of the state. Yeah, so why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Your strategy has been to build a team.
Yep.
And do you run them as employees or are they contractors? Kind of
They are strictly
individuals?
contract. They do their own deals and everything. So it's
Good man.
strictly.
I was hoping you. I would have been disappointed if you had said otherwise.
I pay a minimum wage. No, 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 yeah,
They make.
exactly. And like I said, yeah, it's areas I wouldn't have done, and if I'm helping someone out too, because one's a single mother that is always looking to pay for the daughter's softball team kind of stuff. That's what her big complaint is all the time, is how much it costs to pay for those teams that they're on. That's all the well. I say, hey, do one of these a month, and this will pay for everything.
That's all it
You don't have to
takes.
worry about. Yep, exactly.
Good, and they're able to operate under your guidance and leadership. It works out fantastic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, what has it been? I know since you've been to my boot camp twice. You've brought people each time, and you're planning on sending these team members that we're talking about. You're sending them to me for training. Why is it easier for me to train them for you than you? I mean, you've been trained. Why don't you just retrain them?
I know I'll miss something. So, I mean, you've done it and you've done the training and you've got it down and you do it and you do it well. And that's what's helped. I take them there and going over the contract. But another thing too, that's nice about it is it makes it kind of a big deal. I say, hey, I'll pay for you to go, you have your own room. We're going to Washington, D.C. Kind of makes it more of a bigger deal for them. I remember back when I mentioned I was in insurance for 20 years, I had an Allstate agency. So at the beginning of my Allstate agency career, they changed a few things, but I mean, I went to Chicago for 2 weeks and had training there, and I thought it was kind of a big deal than having some regional guy, sit down with me at my office and kind of go over things. It makes it more of a bigger deal for them. I thought, okay, yeah, and they get it and they go and I go, this is kind of cool. He's willing to invest in me. I'm going to work hard for him so he can get his percentage. I get my percentage, and so on and so forth. So
It all works out good.
yeah, but that's it. But I mean, you go over that soup to nuts on wholesaling, and they can hit the ground running, and I pretty much don't have to answer a whole lot of questions for them. They know everything that they need to know. They just got to experience it, but they're able to get started.
Fantastic. So yeah, we get them not just hit the ground running, but hit the ground sprinting.
Yes, very good. They're very good. Yeah.
Just a track and field coach, I'm sure you appreciate.
And if those of you have ever seen me, I'm not much of a sprinter. So I coach throwing guys. So so we hit the ground kind of lumbering. How's that? Yeah.
Fine. Yeah, you're more of a shot put and discus kind of guy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, I leave the sprinting to the littler guys than myself.
Yeah, for the smaller ones, that's fine.
Yeah.
Very good. What else, Mark? Anything? Any other deals you're working on? Anything else you think would be helpful that you'd like to add?
One thing too, in your program, you've had speakers, and I think they're through your RIA back in the Traction RIA in Washington, D.C., but I've been able to attend some of your meetings where you've had some outside speakers, Alan Cowgill being one, Cameron Dunlop, and those have been really good, really building up my tool bag, if you will, I guess would be a term. So I'm able to look at just about anything and have some sort of a program that I can actually make money on. So I'm learning how to, with Alan Cowgill, I've learned the private money part of things, and then Cameron Dunlop, the systems. So I've been using his vacant home strategy, and those are all different things that I've learned. I've gotten from attending your webinars that I think are geared towards your local Traction RIA, but I'm able to take advantage of that as well.
Yeah, I have them in locally, but it's geared towards anybody. I happen to present them locally, but it is, and we'll have links in the show notes to each of those gentlemen as well. That way, if people that want to invest in themselves, so you've not hesitated to invest in yourself. Why is that?
No, because I know the value of it. I remember back in the day when I first started Allstate, I was self-employed and independent contractor, but they provided a lot of training, and I thought that was good. And I like in-person training because you can get some dialogue going back and forth and so on. So I know the value of that, and those things were provided by Allstate at the time, but I always kind of appreciate it. But it helped me, and so that's why I'm investing this time my own money into it, investing and then I also, like I said, living an hour and a half away from the area that I work, because there's not much between me and there as far as population, is I'm trying to set things up where I could do most of everything from here. Have a little command center kind of thing, and I can do it all from here and not have to worry so much about being on the ground and having the bird dog set up and have learn about no buying. Is one thing I've learned and I'm working on, and all that. So that way I have just a whole bunch of different things that I can do to make money in this.
Fantastic. And on terms of being in your command center and running your business, and kind of because you're all starting to dominate your state, which is fantastic. What elements? Because I do a nice chunk at the boot camp that's on running your systems and how to systematize and get more time out of the day, more money out of what you already have. And what have you found useful about that? Because I usually find people that have been multiple times always appreciate that part more and more.
Well, what I'm able to do is I get up in the morning and I do my search around. I'll mainly search around a little bit of multiple listings, find some stuff that's maybe off, gone in the certain areas that expired listings and things. So I kind of set out the day that way, and then as of right now, I leave about 10 o'clock, drive into Portland, do my thing, do a little driving around, go coach, and then drive home. I get home about 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and do a little bit more work and get the mailers done. I do the mailers through Vistaprint, so that way I just send them the list. It's easy. I'm not stamping things and addressing things and stuff. So I know it costs a little bit, but time is money, and so it's allowed me to okay, I got to do this stuff. It's going to cost me this much in stamps and mailing and printing, and just make it happen.
Mark, well, fantastic. I'm excited for you and glad to hear about all your successes. As we start to wrap it up, do you have any final thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, no, I appreciate doing this. This is great. I've learned a ton from you and your training, and just if I could tell people that if they want to bring other people to them, to get them trained up, because it's a lot easier for Tom to do it than for me to do it at this point. So it's worked out well, and just the old cliche, every no is one step closer to yes. I mean, that's kind of words I've lived by for forever. Hopefully that works for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, every no is one step closer to yes. Sometimes cliches are cliches for a reason.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're not true just because they're cliches.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, fantastic. Well, Mark, thanks very much for the interview. I know people have gotten a lot out of this. In fact, listen to this one a second time for sure, folks, because if you start to look at all the nuance that was in there and the things that were said, there's a lot of fantastic lessons that'll really launch your real estate investing business as well. So, Mark, thanks. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Thanks for listening. Your next step is to visit gettractionpodcast.com. There you'll find all current episodes and a link to download a free copy of Tom's Deal Flow cheat sheet. Happy wholesaling!